Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for coming. My name is Brennan, if you don't know who I am. I welcome all the residents, and I welcome all the candidates who've taken their time out of the evening to come and meet tonight and ask questions about our town, our ideas, our thoughts. I see we have Maureen Frye, Dave Yonkins here, and Scott Stevens is also here. Those are the four candidates that are on the ballot. We have Judge Jimmy Sheets, that's right. He is here tonight as well, and I thank him for coming. His beautiful daughter, Tawny, is here. Thank you for coming today. So I'd like to start with the candidates. If you'd like to come up and speak, please come up. If you have a speech prepared, or if you'd like to say anything, and we'll start with Scott Stevens. If you'd like to start first, Scott, and then, or no, excuse me, we should start with Maureen Frye. Women always first. I'm sorry. Excuse me. And then Scott, you can be second. You must stand here. Wait a couple more people. You want to just wait a couple minutes? Wait till they come.
I'll wait a minute because we have a few other people coming.
Sure.
We have a few more people coming, and I'd like them to be able to have a seat and listen also. As many of you know, I am Maureen Frye on the ballot. My name is, most people know me as Rainey. I have lived here for 49 years, and I will tell you from the time we moved here, my husband and I, we love Munhall. Eric was from Munhall. He had only nice things to say, and that's how I felt. I just felt it was a nice place to raise our children. People cared about their homes and their yards and their neighborhoods, and people cared about people. And over these years, I have seen it change. And over the years, for every election, we would see the names. And the names stayed the same. And there was no competition, and there was no change. And in my heart, everything started to change going downhill. I started to attend the meetings 4 years ago faithfully. And I will say to every one of you who have seen me on the video or seen me at the meetings, I ask questions. I ask questions that I feel are pertinent. I ask questions about money spent. I ask questions about what's being done. I don't get the answers, and the answers I get, I'm treated very rudely. People ask me many times, as we've gone door to door, we've probably done 1,500 houses so far, and they'll say, why are you running? I'm running to represent you, because right now, I firmly believe, and I'm going to say it how I see it, the good old boys club does not care about you. They do what they want to do, and it irritates me. And I feel this election, everybody, is critical. Because if you want change, we have names on the ballot. We have people who care about Munhall. You can come to me. I'll give you my house number. I'll give you my, I'll give you everything. I am not a politician anyway. I'm running for one term, 4 years. And any of you who know me, Girl Scouts, being in Munhall, anything that I do, I will give you over 100%. And if I don't have the answer, I will get you an answer, because that's what I feel elected people do. They represent the town. I don't want to hear you live in this part of Munhall, they live in that part. This is Munhall, people. We should all be concerned about Munhall. I don't care if you're up in Munhall Gardens, in the park. It offends me, lower Munhall. What the heck's that about in my eyes, okay? I'm just saying, I want you to take pride in Munhall. Because if people take care of their homes, people take care of their yards, it catches on to your neighbor and they take care. and then they take care. And the next thing you know, people say, it's a nice place to live. And that's what I want to know. And if you have questions, please ask me. And unlike what's going on right now, I will give you answers. I will be honest. That's who I am. I will be transparent. That's who I am. And I will give you the best years that I have to offer. I could go on for 20 minutes, but I don't want to do that. Love you all.
Scott.
My name is Scott Stevens, and I was born and raised in Municipal. However, there have been intermediate job changes that I had to leave Municipal for a while, but I'm aware of what goes on. I've been involved in going to meetings and speaking for the last 10 years. I felt that there was a lack of transparency, so I started a YouTube channel, which then winds up, the meetings are currently being televised, or should be televised, because there was a referendum voted on. So I'm running on the premise that I basically want to give government back to the people. And like Mrs. Frye, I basically, I'm available, approachable about anything. As a matter of fact, I'm not even in politics, and people constantly call me about things. Not that I'm right, I'm not privy to a lot of information. But what I've seen is declination of probably the last 30 years of Municipal. And again, to use the phrase Mrs. Frye used, the good old boys. It's a clique. Cliques are not good. They have one agenda for themselves. I'm a law and order type person. I was in the military. After the military, I went into law enforcement, and then I went into information technology. I worked for the Department of Defense, the Department of Navy, many other different companies, Duquesne Light. Every single particular infrastructure I built was better. It's a little bit different when you're dealing with people, not machines, deal with feelings. And I think we all have the feeling that everybody that showed up here has the same feeling that there has to be a change. There has to be people that care, and we have to work together to change them for the better. Our school district is one of the lowest in Pennsylvania. You know, you take a look at taxes, there's no way that taxes are not going to go up. We're in jeopardy of losing our ambulance company. If you have a heart attack, you have 3 minutes to get help. We are one of the very lucky boroughs that actually has an EMS that they want to get rid of. Is that on the agenda, Mayor? Are they thinking about doing that?
There's been talk of it. We'll see.
Okay, that's not going to happen. There are ways and means of finding financing. There are ways and means, grants, things of that nature. You know, with the latest upper echelon of the federal money that is being given out, we need to take full advantage of that and make sure it comes to our community and to help this community. Every community, no matter what socioeconomic background, you know, no matter what, everybody matters. Everybody's a human being. It should be treated fairly, and they are not. I've experienced this myself. So, for the last 10 years, as I said, I've been involved with going to meetings, speaking out, giving ideas. So, I'm only here basically to throw my hat in and ask you for your vote. And I'm willing to answer questions. There are things that I do not know, I will admit. about the water authority, but I will learn. There are things, other things that the borough takes care of that I don't know, but I will learn. So I'm willing to throw my hat in, I'm willing to give it my 100%. And I think any of the candidates here are very good choices. I have nothing but good things to say about all of them. So, you know, there's 4 seats up, and this is the most important election I think Munhall has. The most important. This is a future that we can change, that you don't have a clique, and that independently we all think that we think for the best of the whole of Munhall. So thank you for your time. Mayor, thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for coming, Scott.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming. My name's Dave Yonkins. I've been a resident of Munhall for 55 years. My dad grew up here. My kids grew up here. I've done a lot for this town. I've done fundraisers for the town. I've done all kinds of stuff. This is a very good town. I've been all over the world professional wrestling, if people don't know that. I've been to South Africa, Puerto Rico. This is a very nice town. It's a very good town. It's a good place to live. I'm not a politician. I found out that there's classes that you take when you become a councilman to learn the borough workings of government. So I plan on taking that. But my thought is let's make, like he said, let's take care of the whole borough of Munhall. I live on Ravine Street. I was down there, it was a few years ago. It snowed real bad. I called, they wouldn't clean our road. I called up to the borough building and asked why. They told me that the borough made a deal with the county, that the borough was going to take care of the crossover going into the waterfront, and the county was supposed to salt and take care of the road on Ravine Street. Well, we didn't get nothing for, it was like a week or two, am I correct? And I called them and I says, what's going to happen? They said, well, it's not our problem. Well, no, it is your problem. You work for us. You should come down and tell your borough, go down there and take care of them residents. Let's plow the road and salt it so nobody gets hurt. And then let's just fight with the county later. I work for the county, I'm a correctional officer. I'm about ready to retire. The county don't like to pay a lot of anything. So their word's not that good. So we need to take care of our residents. The people in this borough are the people that we work for. And when you go to the borough building and they tell you it's not their problem, well, maybe you ought to try to help even if it isn't your problem. And my thought is, if you come to me and ask me a question, I got a reputation in jail. I don't lie to the inmates. I don't spin the inmates. I tell them the truth. And if I don't know it, I will come back and find it and come back and tell you what it's about. That's the way I do it with them. I will do the same thing here. I will not lie to you and I will not spin you. I'm here to take care of our borough, to make it the place it was when we were all growing up. And I'm tired of the clique like some people say. So if you could vote for us or me, I'd appreciate it. But if you have any questions and you see me walking around, just ask me. Thank you.
So I failed to introduce our moderator for this evening, Mr. Santiago, Jesse Santiago. So when I'm done speaking, Jesse can go around. If anyone has questions, they can write it down. And Jesse would be more than happy to read your questions to the council candidates. And I also want Jimmy Sheets to come up and speak before all the question and answers go out as well. I'll give you some time to think about anything you might want to ask. He's certainly on the ballot, and I did bring a copy of the ballot if anyone wants to look at it, to see who's all running. And certainly that would give everyone a chance to talk about a couple of things if they want to ask, write things down. But I apologize for not introducing. So, let me start. This is a very important election. There's no doubt about that. and most of you do know me. I am Rick Brennan. I am the mayor, and I've served for 3.5 years now as mayor. And I've enjoyed every minute of serving Munhall as mayor. I can honestly say I've not returned a phone call to any resident that's called me with a problem. Whether it was their trash taken out, whether they had issues with someone breaking into their house, so many different complaints that could go on and on. But I've done the mayor's position to the best of my ability. And I do regret not running as a second term. But as I've learned that if you don't have a vote, you don't have much to say. And you can speak and speak and speak, and if you're not open, if you're not receptive, if you're not being received by the council, you have no voice. And that's why I've decided to run for council. I'm sorry. Just for that basic reason alone, I made that decision, because we still have a lot to do. As mayor, not having a vote, I think is a flaw in our municipal system. I think the mayor should have a vote in all the dealings of council. And in the town, you're in the town, you're at all the meetings. I think that in the future, I would really like to see that change, and that would have to be done through the state system. Especially not having a council that will work with you, that makes the biggest difference. And our council has not worked with me, and candidates and councilmen who are sitting here, they can tell you, we're not really vested in all the information. So if I'm elected, I'm going to go through some points of what I would like to start with and pursue. And honestly, it's not just me that needs to be elected. We need to have Maureen Frye elected. We need to have Dave Yonkins elected. We need to have control of the town. Certainly, Scott Stevens, absolutely. Because one person, I've sat on council in the past, and if you have one vote, it's meaningless. You become a whipping boy. You're not, it doesn't matter what you say. So, moving forward, number one, we do need to revamp our zoning. For us to have a zoning ordinance that allows the batch building to be built on West Street and have 8 parking spots or 9 parking spots, I just cannot see how that building can be built in a residential area. That West Street is zoned R5, I believe. And it does not fit on the lot that it sits on, let alone have parking for people coming to and from. So it does not fit. The Propel School building, which they are going to put an addition on Propel down there, and they're going to take up 95% of that lot. That does not fit. It may be allowed, but it needs to be changed. Our zoning laws need to be changed to protect our neighborhoods, to protect our single-family home areas, where our children live, where our people live. So that has really got to be changed. And honestly, there's a lot of other things that need to be changed in our zoning ordinance. You know, and it's too monotonous to really talk about tonight. Secondly, I'd like to speak about, someone mentioned about the sanitary sewer system. I've sat long and hard and thought about this, and I think that we need to keep control of our sanitary sewer authority. It's run by residents of our town, and it should be run by residents of our town, not by selling the sewer authority to Pennsylvania American Water or whichever other person it may be. We lose control of the sewer authority, and we don't make the decisions. And the sewer authority, in my opinion, it should be creating revenue, and they should be putting revenue back into our treasury. It shouldn't just be sitting over here. It should be putting back into the town, and that's council's decision, we need to work forward and make new agreements with this so that we have money brought in every year, not to just sell it off and then spend the money on whatever we're going to spend it on, whatever project we might be working on. If that money's gone in 7 or 8 years. We don't have an asset like the sewer fluid. So just to let you know, and I'm just going to stop here and say, McKeesport, the city of McKeesport sold their sewer fluid last year. It was the end of last year, I believe. So in April, I believe, Pennsylvania American Water, they bought the system. They applied for a 39.1% rate increase. They were not given that. They were only given a 20.22% increase. So that's for the first year. And then the second year, they applied for a 6.8% increase. They were only given a 4.88% increase. So if you go to what their bill changed from, their bill went from $51, this is for sewage now, $51.75 to $71.97, an increase of $20.22, or almost 40% per month. So, you know, when you hear people talking, saying, we're not going to increase the rates aren't going to increase. Well, the proof is in the pudding. This is what's happening in McKeesport. This is an actual person's bill, and I'll leave it up here, we all can look at it. This is an actual person's bill. Their name has been taken off, so you can't see it. We don't want to divulge names, but I just acquired this two or three days ago, and I wanted to share it with you all tonight, because certainly, if it's an asset we're selling for $8 million, $16 million, whatever, it's certainly an asset to look at and keep and say, why can't we make it our asset still, and why can't it help the borough instead of not? So, moving forward, if elected to council, and if we're all elected to council, we need to implement new public policies on borough council meetings, on all public meetings. Public meetings are held for the public to be aware of what your town is doing. They're not held for the councilmen. They're not held for all the representatives there. They're held so that people can come and take part in the meeting and speak. If you can't speak in a public meeting, it's not a public meeting. Remember that. So, we've been having meetings for the last year without any public input. And I don't know if anyone's aware of that, but the Zoom meetings that we have, no one from the public can ask a question on anything that is on the agenda. So, my feeling is that they are an illegal meeting, and they should not be held this way. That's a serious problem if you really think about it. Number 4, we need to have a plan in place. We should have had a plan in place before we even started working on the Willis Center. But we don't have a plan for our municipal building that we have now. We've just started gung-ho into this municipal project at the Willis Center, and we never even sat and made a financial plan of what to do with the building that we have now. And I'm not going down that avenue where the pros and cons of the old municipal building versus the new municipal building. Where we're at today, we have no plan for our old municipal building, and our new municipal building we're speaking about is going to be not half done. It won't be halfway completed, and they'll be at about $7 million, and that'll take us about 30 some years to pay off. So also, they have plans on possibly doing other things in the municipal building, which I'm not sure that we want to do. Do we want to move our magistrate's office into the municipal building? Okay. Well, parking is an issue already. We're moving from one building that does not have a lot of parking to another building that's not going to be big enough to accommodate everything, I don't think. There's plans to build additional parking up where the old water tower was, but in that area, you're walking quite a ways down to the municipal building. If someone takes a bus and wants to go to the borough and pay their taxes, they cannot get off a bus and walk directly into the borough building. They have quite a project to get into the office. So, and nothing is being said about this. At one of the last meetings, it was mentioned, it was asked, what are we doing with our old building? And their answer was, we don't know. We don't know. And I think that's a quote. So that's poor planning. And I certainly don't want to see this building demolished and knocked down and then a parking lot put for the batch building or for Westfield. There's no reason for that to happen, and I've spoken to a lot of residents going door to door, and a lot of people still don't know that we're moving into the batch building. People that do know ask, what are we doing with the building? What are we going to do? What are the plans? We don't have any plans. We don't know. But I've heard in comments and talking that they would love to knock the building down and maybe put a fire hall there, maybe put a parking garage there. I don't think any of those are improved. So just bring facts up. You know, as mayor, as councilman, you devote a lot of time, and all the councilmen devote time, and that time taken away from your family and things that you like to be doing. But if we can all work together to move our time to a better place, it's worth it. You know, because none of us are going to be here 20 years. We're not going to be here. The next generation, the young people, need to start coming into this fold and start getting involved. It's hard to get young people to get involved, and I hate to say that because I used to think I was a young person, but I'm certainly not any longer. I could go on and on, but I really want you all to think about what questions you might want to ask us or ask and talk among anyone. And certainly this meeting is an open meeting. It's an open meeting for people to talk and discuss what they want to talk about. One thing that was brought to my attention today was that there's going to be and I'm just going to announce it because I know most of the people have had COVID shots, but they're having a COVID shot at the library. I think it's Friday from 1 to 4. It's going to be by the Allegheny County Health Network, and they're giving the Johnson shot. So I think it's a one shot. Is anyone aware of that?
Yeah.
It's 1 to 4, right? And it is Friday?
Yes, and it's in the parking lot across from the music.
Great. So if anyone needs that, you don't need to have a reservation or
You have to have a photo ID.
You need to have a photo ID. No, and that's all you really need to have. You have to be 18 and over and have an ID, proper ID. And I think that's great that they're having it there because I just got the other shot. It really knocked me out there for a while. So. I thank you all for coming, and I'm going to leave this stuff up here. You can look at it. I do want it to come home with it. So I'm going to turn the stage over to Jimmy Sheets. Jimmy. I love this pin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, citizens of Munhall. I am Jimmy Sheets. I'm running for one of 9 spots on the Court of Common Pleas. I'm cross-filed. I'm a registered Democrat, but I am cross-filed on the ballot and I'm running in the primary as both a Democrat and Republican. On the Democratic side, there are 39 candidates running for those 9 spots. So the reason I accepted the invitation and I appreciate it is what makes me different than the other 38 people running. And I heard each candidate that came up here this evening talk about what they're going to do if elected. And they basically had a platform of different ideas they would bring to the government to represent the people. What makes me different than most of the other people running for judge is that I don't have a platform. You see, ladies and gentlemen, ethically, we, judicial candidates, are prohibited from having a platform. That's why we can cross file. I'm not running for judge as a Democrat or a Republican. I'm running for judge as a criminal defense attorney with 20+ years of experience in a courtroom on almost a daily basis, representing the constitutional rights of the criminally accused. I went to Duquesne University School of Law. I started at the Allegheny County Public Defender's Office and spent 5 years there. In 2005, I started my own practice, and I've been doing that for about 16 years. I've represented men and women trying to get a PFA. I've represented defendants who were the subject of a PFA. I have represented people accused with things as simple as retail theft, up through and including homicide. And I've been asked relentlessly over that 20+ year career, Jimmy, how do you represent murderers, drug dealers that are bringing poison into our community, child molesters? I brought my beautiful 10-year-old daughter with me this evening. The answer to that question, ladies and gentlemen, is I don't represent individual people charged with doing bad things. I represent the constitutional ideal that everyone gets a fair trial. When you go to the polls on May 18th, this personally is a very important election to the citizens of Munhall because you have an opportunity to change who your council members are and potentially change the ideas that are being brought into Munhall. When you vote for judge, what I implore you to do is vote for people that have experience in a courtroom, decades of experience. What I ask you to do is not vote for people because they're out there making promises. I'm going to eliminate cash bail. I'm going to empty the Allegheny County Jail. None of which they can do, but it's popular to say right now. Bail abatement is a popular, progressive thing to say. There are changes we need to make to the criminal justice system. Those changes will come from the legislature. So I applaud the other candidates that were up here talking about changes they would bring. My job, if elected, ladies and gentlemen, is to follow and apply the law of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and the Constitution of the United States as it's written. And I give each and every one of you my word that if you look all the way down that long list of 39 people and find number 37 and give me Jimmy, that is exactly what I'm going to bring to the bench in Allegheny County. I thank each and every one of you for your time.
So if anyone has any questions, please raise your hand. And, well, yeah, and Jesse can run around and grab them, and he can come up and read them. It can be very anonymous. I think that's the way to handle it. That way, no questions coming from an individual. He can walk through, pick them up, and he can come all up. Take a couple minutes.
I have a question that's not about his candidacy right now. You mentioned about the Zooms for the council not
Yes.
being able to make comments. They don't do an email thing like the school district does where you can email comments before the meeting happens?
This is how the meetings are run. If you have a question, you can write it in, you have to mail it in, or email it or send it in, and then it gets printed out, and then they ask the question. Now, the last meeting, the candidate was allowed to ask the question. But prior to that, the secretary or whoever was appointed would read the question and then they would answer. But that's not where the problem really lies. The problem lies in, we have a printed agenda that we're going to talk about and vote on.
Right.
You cannot ask a question about it.
Oh, okay.
So you're not allowed to participate in, per se, the process.
So those agendas don't go out early?
The agendas probably get out maybe Tuesday afternoon, generally, or maybe late Monday at 4 o'clock when the meeting is on Wednesday. So, no, there's not enough time to really get on that, but all it is a press a button, and then anyone there on the Zoom call could ask a question or speak about it.
Yeah.
They don't allow you to do it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Can I mention something? Because I was the person at the last meeting who was about to talk after a year and a half or whatever. And they informed me that I could ask all 7 questions and they would then be discussed. So I did. They had, well, one person had the copy. They gloated right over question number 4, which is common. How do you know what's on the agenda when it's under the mask because they don't let it?
This is a good one anyways. Are you in favor of selling our property at Waterfront? What would you like to do with it? Or how to utilize it?
You guys can go first.
I'd like to go first.
Yeah, I believe that's the property down my roads.
Yeah.
Yes.
Behind those.
Right.
What is it, like 7 acres?
7.5.
So since it really doesn't have intrinsic value, it's not feasible to put a park there. It's not feasible to really do anything with. I'm not sure what the EPA, even if the soil has been tested or whatever the case may be. I simply say, put it on the market, okay? Or you rent the property, you allow somebody to build a building, and you charge a rental for that property, okay? Or an agreement.
Can you all hear him?
No, I don't know what.
No? Okay,
So-
I'll speak it.
Why don't you stand up and you can answer, and then
So
we'll do the
I'll voice it. I see no intrinsic value on holding a property in that particular spot. So there's several things you can do. One is you can sell it. Secondly is you can keep the property, allow somebody to build a building on it, and then charge them, whatever rate. I would like to have some interest in that property at all times because that's our property that was given to us. Now that we're in a negative, last year we were positive roughly around $150,000 or $1.5 million positive borough situation. So we had $1.5 million in the bank. Now, if you subtract that from what they're spending on the Willis Center, which is about 6.8, would I be correct about that?
Not sure.
Who knows? Could go up, go down. First of all, having $1.5 million in surplus is sort of overtaxing the people. That should, me personally, I would have given that back to the people. Okay? You can't hold on year after year a positive, you will have maybe one year that, and that's just the way, that was way out of hand. That should have went back to the people, $1.5 million in a surplus. So if you hold on a surplus for several years, that's overtaxing people. But you have to do what the specific thing is, the best to make the most amount of money out of that property. What that is, would be a combination of people that know real estate, things like that. That's not my area of expertise, but I'd be willing to sit down with people, anyone, and brainstorm. That's why you have several people. So, that was my thing on that. I see no intrinsic value for the borough to build something or a playground in that area. Simply because there's crime, it's in between different areas. It would have to be maintained and monitored by the police.
So Jesse, just to move things along, would you give like a minute and a half response or something? Can you time that for us? So we could do that. Just because we don't want to be, we don't want to be here all night. And just quickly answer your questions is all we really want to do. So, go ahead.
I would like to say that it was brought up a few years ago because we do own that 7.5 acres. Think about how much property that is at the waterfront. And we were given a bid of $75,000. They were willing to jump right on that. And a lot of people said, whoo, 75,000, I mean, 7.5 acres. To make a long story short, they wanted to put storage units down there. Storage units. We also have a big storage unit called Borough down there. No, I'm not in favor of that. I will say, as of 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, overnight, we were told that they have a bid of $300,000. I personally asked, was it advertised? No, doesn't have to. Was it, or their sign center for sale? No. You just happen to get somebody just knocked on whatever, and you got a bid for $300,000. And then it was brought up, $300,000. However, there are liens against that. So when you take the liens away, Munhall will come out with X amount of dollars. And I'm talking over $1 million in liens. So we're just saying, people, they want to give it away. You try buying property, 7.5 acres anywhere for $75,000 or $100,000 or $200,000. I don't think it takes a brain search to realize something's wrong. You don't get that much property for that amount of money unless something's going on. That's my input.
Well, I've been working so much for the last 20 years, I didn't even know we owned that property until I was starting to talk to Rick. But what would be nice is, we used to have community days. We don't have no community days, we don't have nothing. What's wrong with taking that area down there and trying to make it for something like community days? Actually, Rick brought the idea up to me, and I'm not gonna steal his idea, but I thought it was a great idea. For one, you don't sell dirt. There's only so much dirt in this world. I mean, if that money's gonna be profitable to us, let's make it profitable all the time, not just when we sell it and then the money's gone and then you don't have nothing. We got to look at the long-term deal of it, where how's it going to benefit the community? Well, by making it to where you can have a community days or you can have something down there, you're giving back to the community also, instead of just taking the money. Not everything's about money. Let's have a community and have community days. I mean, it was a great thing when we used to go over to Westfield and do that. So, I mean, that's where I'm at. I don't think we should sell dirt.
Well, I certainly think that there's a lot of value in that property. I wouldn't sell it. I think we should be using it. I think it was taken with the understanding it was going to be used for recreational purposes. And if it's sold, then there are liens that need to be paid to the school and other entities for taxes, but it's not $1 million. It's about $150,000 or so, somewhere in that ballpark. Not to correct you,
no,
but I don't want people to say, oh, they got this wrong information. But if you don't try and develop something and don't work on a project or do anything with anything, it never does happen. So I think we need to move forward and see what we can do with it, like community days, There's a multitude of ideas that could be spent down there, but I certainly wouldn't sell it right now. It doesn't cost us anything to keep it, so, thank you.
Okay, next question we got coming up are you in favor of selling the sewer? Just go ahead.
I'm not really aware of all the potential, but hearing Rick say about, I'm sure once we sell it, the rates would go up. By keeping it within our residents, by having the people on that committee, we have more control. And before we do anything, I say, let's get out there and find the facts. Let's put the feelers out to the people so that you can tell us what you're thinking. You might have family who works for some other thing, and they could inform us. I want to share ideas.
No, we've had that since the beginning of Munhall Borough. There isn't anybody else that knows Munhall Borough than people like Rick, who have worked on projects like that. That's not my expertise, but because that is Rick's expertise, and I'm going to go with, what Rick said, because that's his profession, and he would have put a lot of time and effort into looking into that. So that's my answer.
Well, I don't think you should sell anything that's making the borough money, because it can help lower taxes for the residents. If it's going to cost you money, why would you sell it? So you have this money laying in the bank, but when it's gone, it's gone. If you are making money off the sewer system, why would you sell it? Why wouldn't you just keep the revenue in the borough? It's a no-brainer. You keep what's making the money.
Well, I think we need to have public meetings and discuss this with everyone and see what the numbers are before any discussions are made. It can't be four guys sitting behind a desk saying, well, what do you think we ought to do here, Joe? What do you think we ought to do here, Jack? It needs to be publicly spoken about, and then decisions made before anything goes any further. And I'm not using any names in particular. I'm just spotting names out just to say that. So I think public meetings are the most important thing when you're going to talk about selling an asset like that. So, thank you.
Let's see. Okay, what would you do with our current borough building in the fire hall?
Let me start.
Good.
That's a hard question, because what can you do with a building like that? It was designed as a municipal building. So, there is a fire hall in it. Do we need to do we need to knock it down and build a grand fire hall there? I don't think so. We have community fire halls, and our fire companies do a great job. So, what do we want to do with it? Do we want to make there's a lot to be done with it, could be done with it. We could have a museum in there. We could have a history center in there. We could have open meeting rooms for people. There's a lot that could be done with it. So, again, these are things that could have been done and talked about before they jumped into this. But it was a jump into the new building. Let's knock the building down. That's not the answer. So, again, public meetings.
No, I don't think we should sell it. For one, we just spent all the money putting a new roof on it. Two, it's built like no other building's built at all. And three, if they would have took care of it and put money into it for the last 50-some years, we wouldn't be in this situation. So it's not the borough's fault that it's that way. It's the council's fault that they just sat back, because when I was a young kid, I grew up on 19th Avenue. We used to run there and play baseball at Westfield and stuff, and we used the restrooms in there. That building has not changed since I was a kid. Okay, you've got a shooting range down in the basement. A lot of people don't even know there's a shooting range down there for the police. The police, I talked to them, they said they would love to be able to use that. But our guys are saying it's too expensive to put a ventilating system in there. Well, why is it too expensive to help our police protect themselves instead of going out to the county and using the county range when they can't, when they can use their own range. And we could possibly help Homestead or West Homestead with their police officers, letting them get some time in there too. I mean, we all should work together. I mean, but one thing I say, we should not get rid of that borough building, because as I was growing up, everything that said Munhall, that borough building was at the top of whatever page it was on. That is Munhall. And if we have the Willis Center and they're putting all this money into it, okay, let's look at maybe selling it and getting the money out of it. I don't know if we can do that. That's why I got to go to these classes and learn how government works. So I'm new at this, but I do love our borough. So I don't think we should sell it.
I'm about almost the same age as well, most of us here. And it is an iconic building. It's a building that shows my home. This is my home. Should we sell it? Who are we going to sell it to? The years of not taking it, I've seen stalactite paint, okay? Again, you know, there has been absolutely no maintenance on that building. And what's to say, is there going to be maintenance on the Willis Center? This is repetitive behavior. You know, okay, move this. This is destroyed, move this. You know, so you know, I don't know what it's going to cost to at least bring it up to par. The gun range idea was an excellent idea, by the way.
Thank you.
Excellent. So there are many things you can do. But remember that there are a lot of fire trucks in that borough. There really isn't another firehouse that can house those fire trucks. So then the question is, you know, what is the agenda of the current council majority? I mean, do we have to spend another $9 million to build a fire station? Hey, I love the fire station. We save many lives. Police department, we have one of the best. We want to give them safe, you know, we want to make sure they're adequately equipped and things of that nature. But this is like not an easy question to really answer. As Mayor Brennan said, this is something we sit down and brainstorm and have public input. So this is why transparency is a great thing. We have the technology now where we can have virtual meetings of every single resident who wants to be part of that virtual meeting and speak and say, this is mine, this is mine, this is mine, this is mine. So as a collective, as the people, we are representatives of your will. You know, that's something each one of you should think about, and each resident should think about. You have a voice, and use it. Give us the ideas.
I totally agree with all three of them. They have said everything I feel. One thing that is critical to me, right now Munhall doesn't maintain anything. They just wear it to the end and then we gotta get new. You have to maintain. All of us who are homeowners know you have to maintain. You can't let it go. One thing breaks, you say, well, I'll get it fixed next week. To make a long story short, we need to maintain. As Dave said, how much will they maintain the new building? I don't know. I feel we went into that new building, we should have known what they were doing with the old building. I asked that question in the last meeting and I was told we don't know. That's ridiculous because it's 5 months. They told us at the meeting, September 30th, they plan on being in 1860 West Street, everybody. That's 5 months. They don't know what's going to happen. I feel like what they're saying. Is it going to be demolished? Is it going to just, since it's there and Charlie needs a parking area, you know what? We need to publicly discuss this. So I would suggest everybody start calling and saying, we need input before you make plans, because I hate to say it, they have the majority. Unfortunately, we have 2 council members who half the time aren't even informed. Because they have the majority vote, they don't need the other 2. I don't want that to happen under my watch. If I get on, we will have meetings. There won't be behind closed door and on the phone. Everybody will know what's going on, including the people.
What would you like to do with our current, or no comment? What would you like to do with the Willis Center, our new borough building?
Can I start?
Go ahead.
So we are going to, the borough supposedly is going to take 2 floors. Is that the current?
Basement in the first, in the next level.
Okay, so that's the police department and administration. On top of that is a four
There's 2 more
building.
stories.
2 more stories. So we bought more than basically we need. Could have built a whole new building somewhere else. Ridiculous. So I remember going to a meeting and actually Turtle Creek Mental Health, this little horse and pony show, saying, well, we're gonna take one of those floors. I believe that's not going to happen. That was a little thing. So we are gonna have to rent, okay, those 2 floors and rent it to somebody that is responsible and also security-wise allowed within that building. So that building is a secure building. There is secure documents there. There's going to be tax documents. There's going to be police files. There's going to be evidence. So we have to watch who we put in that building. That's very important. Okay? So when that happens, we're going to have to find companies and rent those 2 floors and be very careful on who we rent to. And that's the only, and that would help out with the tax revenue that we are spending currently to put and move the borough building and police department into that building.
I don't know a whole lot about it because, like I said, I worked 311 at the jail. And I did a lot of overtime the last 4 years. I was getting ready to retire, so I don't know a whole lot what's going on with the borough, but Rick told me a lot. Willis Center, you're going to have to rent it out, but he's right. You got to rent it out, but you also got to look that if you rent it to somebody that needs parking, where are they going to park? The borough people are going to have to park there. I mean, that's the whole thing they said. We didn't have parking in the other borough. Well, we don't have it at this one either. So we'd have to look at it, like Greenie said, let the residents help us decide what they want to do with that building or the rest of it. And we can't just do stuff on ourselves. I mean, we have to at least let you guys know what's going on and take your input and then look at it. So.
Well, this market is not a great market for renting office space. Office space is pretty much dead because people aren't working out of offices. So what you really need to look at this building is some other governmental body maybe coming into this building, or some specialty type of a thing going in there. But it's not going to be easy. West Mifflin tried this and they failed. They still have that building sitting out there by the airport. It's a failure. And it's empty. And it wasn't maintained. They have big problems in that building. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the Willis Center. It sits across from the hospital, and there's issues going to be there. There's always going to be issues there with parking and problems. Turtle Creek Valley Authority, the lease that the contract, the way it's written up, is they still have the option to rent the top floor out. So they're holding that, they really are holding that captive until the borough moves into the building, and then I believe they have a year or 2 years on the contract, and someone here may know, I'm not sure if it's a year, I'm not sure, but it's going to be a hard sell. So there's a lot of options that you can look at, possibly even selling maybe. Can you sell a floor? Like sell the whole floor to someone? You know, sell the whole building. But I'm finished.
My retort on that is, I'm a technology person. Actually, Dave, I started out in what Dave does, which is
Corrections.
corrections. We were both corrections officers, and believe me, that's a tough job. And him sitting here taking this on as well shows a lot about your character. But there would be a lot of data companies that would love to have a floor or floors that big and to build a data center there because there's a police station on the bottom. Building a data center there, that's a secure site. And that is the way of the future. The way of the future now is technology. And in this area, we live right on a pretty high elevation. It's almost as high as the county airport, which is the highest elevation in the county. That's why there's an airport there. So you're looking at potentially, I particularly know people and have contacts that would love to build a data center. And that's big money. So.
That's a good thought.
I learned something new because I would never in my life have thought that, but I'm not a techie person. I say that to everybody every day. I'm willing to learn. That sounds like a fabulous idea. Like you said, with police underneath. And the second floor, Monday to Friday, 8 to 5, or whatever. Sounds good to me. I'd like to hear what you have. I heard one person has. It sounds great. I think we need this input, everybody. You should probably sit there with just as many ideas in your mind. And maybe you're not the speaking person. But we'd love to hear from you.
There's 11,000 good people with great ideas that live in this community.
Yep.
I know, hard-working, blistered hands. This community belongs to you. If you want it back, the group of us here, the group of us here are throwing our hats in, and we'll do it.
Okay, moving forward, what is your wish for Munhall going forward? What is your vision for Munhall going forward?
I think we might look into technology because it seems it is the way of the future. I also, and I mean this, everybody, I want to see pride brought back to Munhall. I don't want to hear about slum landlords. I don't want to hear that they can't do anything as a code enforcer. I don't want to hear that it's out of their control. Let's change the laws. Let's think about us residents. Let's take pride in our time. Young people will move in, businesses will move in. It'll be better for all of us. I don't want to live in $1 million home, anybody. I just want to live in a nice neighborhood. And I think that's what the majority of Munhall wants. And going door to door, I am happy to tell you, 90% of Munhall is wonderful. Take a walk, get off your street. People are fixing their yards. People are taking care of their houses. But it only takes one or two to start to bring it up. Talk to your neighbors. Maybe they need help. I want to see us go back to where we were and move forward, technology-wise, or whatever it takes.
Scott?
By the way, I got to be your neighbor. That was such a pleasure.
I knew you would.
I know you care. So, again, I want Munhall to be a shining beacon. you know, when people say Monhall, you're from Monhall, Steel Valley. I get it now. You know, people my age, oh wow, what a great football team you had. You know, all of these different things. But technology is one aspect. But when I was growing up, you could play kickball on the street. All the kids were running around, we all knew each other. We didn't have to worry about things. We didn't have to worry about getting hurt, having different things go on. You know, I want to see Main Street filled with small businesses, okay, where kids can go to, or wherever. We've lost a lot during COVID. We've lost a lot in our municipality. It's not business friendly. I want to make it business friendly. And, you know, like I said, technology is one aspect, but people are the biggest commodity. So when we get the attitude of have pride in our neighborhood and be proud of each other, then we elevate. The attitude is smiles on people's faces again. We just went through a pandemic, okay? People are depressed. I want to see us be that shining beacon and to be happy again. Little kids running around and just be happy.
Real quick, I mean, I've been in other areas, and I guess their code enforcement officers, whoever's in charge of the borough, they must be well qualified. Because their areas are not sitting around with abandoned cars and alleys. I have property on 19th on the high side by the school. Last summer, or the summer before, there was like half a car sitting in that alley for 6 months. But if my rentals grass were a little bit high, I got told about it. I think that we do need to have people that are going to go around that are code enforcement or in the management of the borough building. They need to take care of the neighborhood so they're not ran down. Everybody used to take care of their property. But like they said, the slumlords, but they're going away. And on the lower end of Munhall, they're starting to sell houses for $200,000 a piece. Our property values are going to go up. But the only way for it to go up is if we start doing stuff to where we're making our communities look proper. I mean, go over to Hampton. Go up to Hampton. $300,000 homes. We're starting to sell homes like that. But our neighborhoods don't look like that. People's yards got stuff everywhere. I mean, you got to clean up. You got to make stuff look good. But there's nobody going around and making it happen. You can give people warnings before you give them a fine. If they don't adhere to warning, then that's their fault. And we need to do that. Take care of the borough.
Agreed. Agreed. The future is here already. The people are the future. And it's a residential community. It's no longer an industrial community. It's a residential community. And we need to make sure that our community stays strong. Simple. I agree with that. I agree. Thank you.
Okay, I got air and go. When you refer to the clique that's in office now, what keeps the three of you from being a clique? The way things look, the three of you, Rick, Dave, and me, are a new clique. How does that move us forward? Not that I don't like your ideas, but I'm weary of a new block that leads out another. Yeah, good.
I promise you right now, I'm sure there's going to be days that I don't agree with Rick, Maureen, Scott, Mr. Ondo. I'm not here. I'm not going to be a clique. I'm here for you and the love that I have for this borough. Like I said before, I've been around the world. This is a great place to live. And I had a buddy of mine that lived in Monroe when he moved to Munhall, up in Munhall, and he said, Dave, you always told me this was a great town. He said, this is a fabulous town. The only reason why he moved out, his wife got a job in Westmoreland County and they have to live there. Or he would still be living here and he loved this town. So it's a proven fact that we have a great town. I don't agree with everything he says. I don't agree with everything Maureen says. I haven't talked to Scott enough, but I'm sure. I'm my own person. Nobody owns me. I don't owe anybody no favors. I'm gonna do what's right for us and our borough.
Here, here, and I agree. And I have the same opinion. I'm my own person, and I will investigate every vote that I ever make, or intend to make, or don't make, before I do it. And I'm not going to be influenced by Maureen Frye, Dave Yonkins, Kevin Ondo, Mark Fallon, or anyone else on council. I will make the right decision for Munhall. And hopefully, that's every position that's done, from every council.
I agree, everybody. If you know me, you know. I do what I feel is right. You can tell me what you want. I will listen intently. I want to represent you, but I am not going to be swayed by anybody. When I vote, it will be from my heart, because that's what I feel is right. And I want your input to say, maybe you need to look at it from this. I'll listen. But if you think you're just going to sway my vote because you said so, I'm stubborn. Ask my children. Ask anybody. I'm not part of the clique. And as I said in the beginning, I'm running for one term. My children are not ecstatic about this. At 73, you think I need this, but I will say to all of you, I'm doing it because I don't expect you to do it if I want change. I'll do it. I'll do it to the very best of my ability. I didn't know about these classes, but I'll be there, and I'll ask questions, and I'll go. I'll give you 4 years of my life if that's what you want, but I won't be swayed. It'll be my vote.
I just want to say something real quick. He came over, and Rick came to me last time, where there was a spot open. He wanted me to run for council. I told him, I said, I can't do that. I said, I'm in the middle of doing a lot of overtime at work and padding my pension and doing what I need to do. I said, I'm not going to be that guy that gets elected into an office and not be able to do the job. So I waited until I retire in January, and if I win, if you vote for me, I will start in January, and I'll have a lot more time to take care of stuff. I don't want to be that guy that doesn't do nothing.
So I'll answer this question. Right away, I'm not in the clique. You'll see that right off the bat. So, nevertheless, I'm the one that says cliques are bad. I don't think this is a clique at all. I think that Maureen, Dave, Rick recognize there is a clique. It may present that this might be a new clique, but this has to change, okay? You know, people have to take the reins and become leaders, okay? And each one of us have particular life experiences, you know, in leadership, teaching, you know, already Rick has 8 years. 8-year government already?
Yep.
Okay.
This will be my 8th year.
The furthest from the clique was Eddie. Dave, I understand, corrections officer. You know, it's a leader. I mean, to control, what do you say? There were times...
I've got 110 men on my quad, and I was the only guy there.
I worked in the old jail. I used to have to deal with 600 people. So, but that's greater. But, you know, the thing is we're here. And the thing that I promise you is, if you don't like what I'm doing, I will step down. And the next person that was voted behind me, I will give that position to them. All right? And I will take, if I make a mistake, I will take responsibility for that mistake. That's what a leader does. But again, I have the technology where you can email me, call me, whatever. I invite, actually before a meeting, my idea is I give you a Zoom or whatever, and I want people's input before I vote on something. From there, it gives me more ideas. So when I go to the meeting, I understand what the majority of the people want. And we can debate this or whatever, so I'm approachable about that. Because I want to give the people back the government.
All right, this area of question here is, I'm not sure if you know it or not, but what is the status of Westfield? Who uses it? And who is charged to use it?
I know the school uses it. I don't know what else goes from on there. I don't know if the borough handles it or the school district handles it.
The school, I'm on school board. The school does use it. We do not pay for it. Chatham softball and Chatham College rent it out for a nice fee.
Who do they pay?
The
Pay the
borough.
borough.
The borough?
The borough is in control of the field. The borough the project was done so that Westfield could be enhanced. And it was done so that the school, children of Steel Valley, had the first priority of using the school, using the field, I'm sorry. And with that taken, you know, the borough schedules all the time. So that's how the field is run. The field is run by Munhall Borough. The field was built for the kids of our town. And Mr. Campbell was gracious enough to do that, and we're all thankful for what he's done for us. I mean, there's no ands, ifs, or buts about it. The field is going to need maintenance, and it's going to need a new field put on it, and, you know, so that day will come as well. So.
And I think Chatham rents it for like $15,000 a year.
I'm not sure what the number is. I don't remember offhand.
Yeah.
But I think the field could generate more money for our town, for the field. I think it could be used a little bit more and charged a little bit more for it as well. So
We're already charging for it, and then our kids are getting kicked off of it. The Steel Valley kids are having to wrap up games early, not allowed to play JV games because we're letting other people come and rent the field that Mr. Campbell put the money in for us.
That shouldn't happen.
It's just true.
I'm sorry that that's happening.
That should not happen.
It does.
Our children should come first.
Thank you for bringing that up.
And no, thank you for coming too.
Thank you so much.
Our recreational soccer, this isn't school district, this is our recreational soccer, has been kicked off. They don't even play there anymore because they
But they're Munhall
can't
residents,
get the
correct?
time. Yes.
This is
they're
Munhall.
Mr. Campbell did that for the residents of Munhall.
Yeah.
And I'm lucky to say that I was one of the guys that helped there. I did the gutters on all the buildings. That was an honor to do that.
Well, even though that we're not on council, we are sorry that this is happening to you, and that, you know, that you have to endure this, and we will rectify it. Whether
Our children.
two of us get on, one of us gets on, it will be brought up. And I'm sorry this is happening to you, and it will be rectified.
Okay. All right, what is the eventual plans for the driving range? Is it going to be residential? Are there any problems with the sewers?
I can answer that to an extent. There are no definite plans for the driving range. There was talk about retirement homes or patio homes or a big complex building for senior living. There's also been talk of a church going to be built on there with an athletic field put on there. So there's
development there.
No, there's no development. They're filling it in. Jim Quinn Construction is the contractor working there. And I've spoken with him in the last couple of weeks, and he asked how would we feel about a church being built there? How would we feel about a complex being built on there? Mentioning soccer fields, mentioning an athletic circle or whatnot. And I said, well, I think it's not my decision, it's a decision that needs to be brought to the body and to the people, you know, because if it's run as a church, then it's going to be, there's not going to be any taxes brought onto it.
Mayor Brennan, can you clarify where you're talking about? I don't know.
This is on Homestead Duquesne Road, right before the intersection.
Where they're doing it, okay.
Right.
Who owns that? The borough?
No, it's owned privately. I believe, I'm not sure all the people that own it. There are several people that have vested interest in there as far as I know.
Well, I've been riding by there, and I know a little bit about it. I've done construction work, I've done heavy equipment. I've ran before when I was in the military. They look like they're doing a hell of a job there because they're...
Let me throw this in here too, because this is part of that thing too. Do you know if there's going to be any problems with the sewerage in that area? Because originally, the pipes were way down low. I understand what this question is.
There were no pipes down there.
Okay, because it just seemed like something was stacking.
There were no pipes down there.
They were putting them in, weren't they?
No, there are no pipes down there. There's a drainage system that they have, and everything that they're doing over there is being checked by the Allegheny County DEP. And everyone it's all inspected, and they have a permit there. It's called a grading permit, and that's all that's issued to them for right now. So there's no building permits issued. There's no other permits but grading right now. And they are checked very closely by the county. But there's no definite plans there yet.
Well, as Dave said, it seems to me like they're in the primary stages of development when you were
Yeah, they're filling it in there, but they're doing it.
commenting.
Yeah.
Well, bravo.
I wasn't.
What's it zoned for?
I believe it was zoned, years ago it was zoned R4, but it's changed, it may be R2 now. It's not commercial. It's not a commercial zoning there. I believe it's a residential zoning, and it may be R2. Without having the map here, not memorizing the map.
I wouldn't be surprised with the cost of housing these days if they put a housing plan in there eventually. They don't know what they're doing.
You mean low cost?
I don't know. That's private. That's private. I mean, if they want to put a plan in there, they can, I mean, they have to go through it and do it right.
I've asked for years what's going in, and I've been told they don't know yet.
Well, it's better than
It
what
was
it used to
graded,
look like.
it was graded, it's just been graded.
It's going to look better than what it used to look like, all road in.
Honestly though, the residents that live across the street are really have been living with, you know, a lot of dust and a lot of dirt and a lot of trucks and a lot of activity there. And I feel for those people living right there. I live in the Genoa area, but living right across the street from there, it has to be a hardship. So
It has to be.
it has to be.
Okay, one of the questions too is, when you guys, in the future, will you fight for maps?
Oh, yes.
Well, I've done videos for maps. I've tried to bring maps together with the borough. We need to sit down together and speak about maps. Maps has been talked about in private discussions, and they come out and say, we're not talking about maps, but we need to have maps. We need to have our own EMS system, which is run by people of the borough, of not all the borough, not all of Munhall. I'm sure the representatives from other areas, Homestead. I'm not sure the whole body of maps, but and I don't want to interrupt, but I will leave the question to you guys too. But we have to have a competent EMS system.
Well, 6 weeks ago, I got hit by a car on Main Street. If it wasn't for maps, I'd have been going in a regular car. I mean, because my shoulder was messed up. I mean, they treated me great, and I've dealt with them before. And there's nothing like having your own ambulance system. And I know a lot of the people up there, they care, they're passionate, and I think the boroughs should take care of the maps, try to help them as as much as possible instead of trying to get rid of them. I've already heard that the council will start talking about taking them out of that building they're in right now. I mean, we need an ambulance service, because I remember when the ambulance service was in #1 fire hall. So MAPS is a step up from that, and we had good service when it was in #1 fire hall. So yes, I would fight for MAPS.
My feeling is, I also in total agreement with keeping maps. This past year, they asked for $20,000 from the borough. My feeling is, if the people want it, we put it in the budget. We don't say, where are we going to get the money? We didn't want the money. We don't want it. You put what's important in the budget, people. That's what you do. That's all. I want maps.
I think I opened my statement with that particular issue at hand, and how I feel about it after having a widowmaker heart attack. And I had actually, from my own personal experience, I had minutes to live, and they were there to save my life, or I wouldn't be here. So, nevertheless, there are ideas that I personally have, that could help. And as far as giving money to an ambulance service, this is a service to save people's lives, when a car accident happens, they have to cut you out of a car, I mean, you need triage. You have a heart attack, you have 3 minutes. You need triage for mass blood loss. This time is of the essence. Like I said, we are one of the very few boroughs that has an emergency medical service. Okay. If we were to even mess with maps, the next nearest ambulance service is in Borough. That is about 20 minutes by the time they get the call. Another thing that MAPS has to do, which is sad, is to make money. They have to take out of the emergency service, and they have to do just, take people and transports and transports and transports just to keep them alive. So personally, I think the tax burden and the safety of the borough, of all residents, a child getting hit by a car, whatever the case may be, there isn't a price that you can pay to save somebody's life. I would take, me personally, if I had to, I would take the full tax burden to keep an EMS service.
So, just to make another comment, MAPS didn't ask for 20,000, they asked for about 80,000. Secondly, I think that we could put it on a referendum vote, and it could be a certain percentage could be taxed right from the like they did for the library. I believe the EMS you can do the same thing, and then they would be fully funded all the time. Thirdly, we have a MAPS board member here, Dr. Zabelski, and if you'd like to speak about something about MAPS and inform us anything, I give him the floor for a couple minutes if you'd like to do that.
If you don't mind.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, I would like, if I made a mistake on anything that,
I like everything everybody said.
yeah, I mean,
I joined MAPS 20 years ago as a board member. I'm the current vice president. And we've been struggling. We're one of the few ambulance services in Allegheny County that remain in the black. And as you said, we run transports to help keep us afloat. We went from a volunteer service. Before I got there, it became a union job. We negotiated contracts. They're non-political. We have a non-political thing going on in our board. We don't put political signs in our yards because in one of our previous board members got appointed to the Homestead Borough Council and resigned from our board. We're here to serve currently my home, Homestead, and West Homestead.
And you also aid in other areas that are needed, correct?
We participate in mutual aid, and as well as that, typically we run 2 or 3 trucks. We average about 500 calls in a non-COVID year, a month, which is what West Mifflin, which is a much larger area, ran, and their board went crazy and spent, and went bankrupt, and now they have Baldwin. And to bring Baldwin in there, I think they paid them 140 grand, was that what they were?
I'm not sure.
It was $140,000. And they still have a fund drive, like we do, a membership drive. Now, our membership drive helps people avoid, what is it, you know, is it the copay or is it the,
I'm not sure.
there's 2 things, and
Home insurance, you don't have to pay if
yeah,
you
he's my
insure
insurance
your
expert,
member.
because he files all my insurance claims. He understands that better than I do. If we could get a source of funding to help keep us afloat, because as you know, in your own life, everything gets more expensive as time goes by. Look at the price of gas. We just bought 2 new ambulances. An ambulance sells for about $150,000. That's unequipped.
But who paid for the building that you're in?
That's the other thing. The building will belong to the borough. The building was remodeled, we've outgrown that building, but the building was remodeled and they kept one wall so they consider it not new construction. We put a dormitory in there, we had to have ADA showers on the 2nd floor. And what ADA showers means that you can push a wheelchair in it, there's no barrier. How many EMTs or paramedics do you see in a wheelchair?
None.
The state would not give us a break on that. You know, we have to put ADA showers in. There's so many ridiculous things that you have to do. Plus, we're dealing with a union contract, and I've been on a negotiating team. I've been there for grievances. I've done it all.
Who paid the mortgage?
Oh, we paid for the mortgage for the whole, we tried to get the building from the borough.
May I ask, you also help younger people? I mean, you do also like tuition, you know, anybody who wants to be an EMT or paramedic, you also offer that service to help pay them, am I correct about that? To pay for their education?
If they're an EMT, they work for us, then there is no, in their contract, they get so much money. And when we started, we couldn't afford to put into a pension fund, we put into a pension fund. You could have, everybody knows what the cost of their health insurance is. We got health insurance bills, we got liability insurance, you name it. You want to talk to me about everything that's involved in an ambulance service? I don't have the time to talk to you, I don't want to bore you to that.
Now, does Homestead and West Homestead?
Homestead's put us in their budget. I think we got $10,000 from them from last year. We had to fight
What about
one
West
off to
Homestead?
get the 2,000 that they promised us.
What about West Homestead?
West Homestead hasn't given us a dime.
How about Monroe?
Yeah, how about Munhall? What'd they give you?
We had to fight with them to get the $2,000 that
How much?
promised us last year.
How much?
That's all you got?
I think that was last year's.
That's insane.
What's the price of
We're
a
not in
child's
the
life?
budget for this year, from what I understand. I could be wrong.
I think you're correct.
What they're gonna give up?
They're not in the budget.
They're not in the budget.
So how does the community support its ambulance service when they don't give them any funds? How does an ambulance service survive in the current climate
You don't.
without that?
Do you know how many residents probably don't even know that?
If you don't have insurance or anything, we can't refuse your policy.
And you're not gonna get paid.
We're not going to get paid.
May I ask, how
And
many calls?
if you're a quote member, you donate to the ambulance
Right.
fund drive,
Yeah.
you can call the ambulance if or your parent or somebody fell down and you had trouble getting them up. A lot of people don't know that. There's no charge for that. And a lot of insurance companies now are paying for refusals. That helps us too, because if you roll up on the scene and the person doesn't want to be transported, doesn't want to be treated,
You sign a release.
and then you don't get any money for that, but it took your time, it took your energy, maybe took you from another call, which could be somebody having a heart attack.
I sent my $70 in today, actually, or yesterday.
I don't want to
$70,
take you guys-
$70.
I don't want
Now,
to
this
take
is
you
an
guys'
important
time.
issue. This is an important, one of the
It's a
important
very
issues.
important issue, and I'm very passionate about it.
If I
But
give
I'm
my
going to be
counsel,
on the
I'll
board for
correct
20
it.
years. I woke up one morning and I found out it was 20 years I was on the board.
This is important.
Yeah, any one of us will give you 100% support. And whatever you need.
Well, you heard me talk about
But
it.
this is also what we learn from each other, okay? Some people have never heard that you could subscribe. If that's all you learned tonight, it's a step.
Well, they send it out, so everybody should know it's in their mail.
Yeah.
Well,
Thank you. Mr. Armando. Go
I'm
ahead.
always open if anybody wants to comment and tell us anything about it.
Go ahead, Kevin.
If I may, and I could be wrong, and I shouldn't even say it, but from what I understand, there's only 17% of the population that actually subscribes
You're pretty
to
close.
maps.
Yeah, you're-
17%. Think about it.
Wow.
That's not a lot of people. And another thing, sir,
Yes.
and this is what I'm to understand too, when MAPS takes people to the hospital or whatever they do, and the insurance companies, your insurance company pays for it, right? They don't get the check. You get the check and the people cash it.
It depends on what insurance company it was.
What insurance company?
We do participate with, what, I guess the Allegheny Health Network now. We didn't used to, and that used to be the case. And there were a number of people that would offer the check.
That's great that you're getting it.
And they never sent you that.
But what happens is, and I know from my own practice, is say you bill $750 for an ambulance trip, you get $400.
Okay.
Thank you.
May I ask a
You're welcome.
question?
Thank you.
An idea? So I had surgeries scheduled June 9th. This is just an idea, just to throw it to you. So let's say, I have to get an EKG and a blood test. Would it be viable that you set up like a little office there, like a pre?
Well, that's another thing. Probably need a lab.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Lab certification and anything. And
Just an idea, just
yeah,
to
no,
what.
that's another expense, another liability issue. Plus the fact that you don't have the room to do it.
I think we need to move on.
Yes.
The night's getting long.
Okay, one of the things we're down here is, why can't we collect our own insurance fees instead of legal tax service? Man, a lot of you guys are Candace running, so you might really not know that, but, any thoughts?
Originally, I guess it was a click. That's basically how that happened, I think.
Is it cheaper to farm it out, or is it cheaper to hire a person to do it? I think it's cheaper to hire a person to do it.
All I know is at one time, I did send a check to Borough.
Right. And I do remember when Borough had their own water.
well, I live by myself, and I will tell you, it blows my mind because my usage of water is less than the $17 a month charge. I'm like, what's this? That's my God.
I don't know if it's possible, but if it is, I think it's a good idea. Why give your money away when you keep it inside the borough?
Well, I've received a lot of complaints on this issue. And legal tax, and they've done it to me. If you miss a bill and you don't pay it, you're not sent a month, the next month or what year, you missed this payment. They'll wait 7 years to all this time to accrue, all the late fees and everything, so the $80 or $100 that you pay, that you needed to pay, it turned into a $350 bill. So I think that legal tax payments should be done in-house. It should all be done in the borough. Why do we not have staff there that can pay or take this and pay? So I'm all in favor of moving into the borough. 100% behind that. Absolutely not a second thought. The problem becomes there's a contract. So the contract steps in and they renew it. And they may renew it for 4 or 5 years and you can't get to that vote. Someone needs to say, stop. We're not gonna do this any longer and end it. So that's my feeling.
I agree.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay with that? Okay, then where are the folks going to be parking for Matt's building?
I don't know,
There is no.
anywhere they can.
Ask the resident, she's
Oh, I know that's gonna be a
saying it very
burden.
It's a
well.
nightmare. It's an absolute nightmare. I live on Orchard. I live in what we call the Batch Estates because everything is geared around Charlie Batch. We have no parking. We can't have company come to our houses because if there's a baseball tournament, which there is tonight and all day today, all the parking's gone. Batch's employees, all the parking's gone. I don't know where these people are gonna park.
Is Orchard that street that goes up and back?
And it's a dead end.
It's a dead end.
So you don't even have a turnaround.
Have you went to the borough and seen about getting like the permits to park up there for people who live there and they're not allowed to park for so many
Oh,
times?
we've actually, I used to contact the person that ran operations for Charlie Batch, who we fired, and we would get cones. And we would get cones when they had anything going on at the Batch building to put out. But now with baseball, there's no way to control it. There's nowhere for any of these people to
Well,
park.
you gotta control it the way they do in the city. They put up permits where it's only permanent parking, resident parking.
But who's
of
gonna
certain
enforce
times.
it? There's nobody to enforce it.
Police will.
Well, you gotta make the police enforce it. If they're not doing their job, they need to find somebody to do it.
So
I'm just telling you, when that building opens up, and it's supposed to be
It'll be a mess.
community-oriented, the Batch building, there is going to be no parking. Nobody is going to go there because they're not going to be able to park.
well, I think they have about 7 parking spots.
But that's public street, not on their property.
Well, they'll be lining right up on
Go
Westfield.
through the alley and look at it.
I know, I'm just saying. I'm just saying. And I heard someone someone here say that they don't need parking. The Batch building
Oh,
doesn't need
well,
parking.
how are you going to have a community center with no parking?
I don't know.
That came up at a borough council meeting, and our borough code enforcement officer said because they're not considered a school, they're considered a clubhouse, they aren't required to have parking. That was the answer from the borough.
That's not a good answer, is it?
Okay.
Go ahead, Kevin.
And Rick, you can attest to this. You were mayor at the time, and I was a newly elected councilman. I did vote against the Batch building. Maybe that's going to make a lot of people mad or something like that. When we acquired the Willis Center, the Batch Foundation was offered the Willis Center, and they turned it down.
Why?
I asked
You answer that question.
Too much money.
Too much money to fix
Too
it.
much money to fix it.
They should have sold them the lockdown before.
I asked that question, Kevin.
Yeah, it was, you know, and there again, you also touched on like the legal tax service, and I don't know if anybody has had an issue with legal tax. I know
Yes.
personally I have.
Yes.
And again, I did bring up about us doing it in-house. You gotta really look into this because there's certain reasons why we're dealing with legal tax service versus doing it in-house. I'm not gonna point fingers at anybody, but it's not a good thing. That should be in-house. We should have given the Willis Center to whomever wanted it, because we acquired it for free. And as far as the waterfront property, I'm totally against giving it, selling it, doing whatever with it. That's our property. The price that was offered for that piece of property down there was pennies. Somebody did a survey, this was a long time ago, somebody did a survey on it. That property down there was selling for $700,000 an acre. We own 7.5 acres. Do the math. What's that property worth? And people were offering us, started off $65,000, then it was like $75,000, now it's $300,000. That's a drop in the bucket.
That's still
Again, as Mr. Yonkins had said, it's tough now to buy a house in our borough for less than $200,000. And they're gonna offer for 7.5 acres? Sorry, folks, I'm sorry, I didn't want to go off on that.
We agree with you. We agree with you.
Just so you all know, Mr. Rondo is on council. He's not part of it.
And like they said, when the people that are voting have the vote, sometimes they won't even call him and tell them they're voting. They'll vote on it because they don't need his vote.
So please, folks, thank you, David. I was just going to bring that up. When you hear like the Good Old Boys Club and stuff like that, trust me, those who know me, I'm not in the Good Old Boys Club. And if you ever went to the council meetings and or watched the Zoom videos, 9 times out of 10, I don't agree with what's coming down. And it is a fact that Councilman Fallon and I, we are sort of bypassed because there's 7-member council. If you have 5 votes, you don't really need the other 2. I don't usually know of what was already voted on until we do have a council meeting. I'm sorry, I didn't want to expound on that.
No, that's good you put that out there because I'm sure a lot of people don't know that.
Well, I'm sure. And listening to the questions and stuff like that, I'm sure people don't.
And in my mind, I believe that whether you're needed to vote or not, you're a councilman to the borough.
Yes.
Work for the people, you need to be informed of what's going on.
And if people who know me, you could call me anytime. 90% of the people who live in this borough know where I live. You stop at my house. I'm available to anybody to discuss things, talk about things, and if I don't have the answer right then and there, I usually find the answer and then give you a call back. Am I correct with people I've spoken to? So.
Yeah, I've spoken to you, I've spoken to
Everybody's supposed to be counted whether it's a yea or a nay.
Yeah.
but I can't call one of the good old
It
boys.
should be recognized, everybody. Not
Okay,
just because they got 4 or 5.
Does anybody know, has Monowite received any stimulus money? If so, how much? If so, what are they planning to use it?
They have received stimulus money up to the tune of $1.2 million, something like that. But they've not received it yet, I don't believe. And there are certain criteria what they need to spend it on. And I've asked representatives of our borough, and they said, oh, you can use it on anything you want. That's not the case. That there are certain criteria that it has to be used for, which I'm not fully aware of, honestly. But I know that McKeesport, I think, got $20 million? $28 million they got. So the money is flowing out to these communities, and who's going to sit there and watch where they spend the money? Who is really going to oversee that? I don't know. But that's what I know about.
Is I think they have certain areas have 5 years to use that. So the government must be monitoring that time.
I would hope so.
And that's, the city has 5 years to use theirs.
And I don't know how much they got.
I can't answer that question, to be honest with you, because I don't know. That's why I looked at Rick.
If there was stimulus money, and whatever the money should be used for the purpose to stimulate.
Well, there's criteria that it has to be used.
We gotta follow.
That's
I don't know what. I don't know
something we have to learn.
Right.
other question is, I would like to understand what the candidates would do to control the expense, specifically in lighting of the new construction of the Willis Center. Will add expenses. I believe there are different decisions ahead, including the current borough.
I think we really talked about that
Yeah.
already.
Yeah, we already talked about
It's a
that.
repetitive answer.
But
But
here, here's my question. Basically, the current council was 6 to add $325,000 a year in expenses for the bond.
For what?
And for the bond, for the construction of the building,
right,
okay? So in the course of 30 years, that's $6 million we're going to pay now. Okay? Prior, this should be for every year. Since I attended, the current leadership, okay, that is there, before they even had the bond approved, you wonder where your 1.5 million went? 30,000 went for the original study in the Borough building in the Village Center.
right?
$647,000 went to asbestos abatement and demolition of the building. $199,000 went for the plants by TK Construction, right there.
Was that before they voted on it?
That's before the bond was voted on.
Right.
That's it. So over $1 million was, close to $1 million was spent.
Over $1 million. It was over $1 million.
That's, so the reality is, when I asked the question of the gentleman, they had to know. Right there, the behavioral unit was there. And a couple things were, they had the ability to lease space at a very low rate that increased over a number of years. And so, but the thing is, when I did ask right there, what are you going to do, okay, as far as expenses concerned? Because now you have 2 buildings, okay? And my question right there is, you as candidates, and I hope that you are like, okay?
Thank you.
Is that they're going to have a difficult time controlling expenses. And there are going to be some difficult decisions to be made, okay? Including the building itself, the existing building. Okay? You're being saddled with a very tough situation walking in the door, which concerns me a lot, specifically when most companies, when they go for money, they do what is called pro forma. They understand what their expenses are, they understand what their revenues are going to be at the door. When I asked the questions in reference to the 2 floors, at least they had no clue on what, they had no idea what revenue they could produce from them. They had no idea what the expenses of the new building were. They had no idea what the expenses were going to be on the existing building, unless you're just going to keep the whole building. And so there's a lot of questions right there that need to be answered as you all hopefully go into the door.
Well, if you remember that, I actually specifically asked the mental health whether they would commit that night that they are going to rent one of those floors. And they said no, if you remember
They
that.
had a year to commit.
And their year isn't started yet.
Right.
And not until they take occupancy of the building does their commitment time start.
And I just want to say that we're asking for your vote on May 18th. May 18th, God willing, we will have on the ballot, our names will be at the top. Because it means that we would get on the November ballot, God willing, to get voted in. We won't be sworn in till January 2022. I'm just saying, from my point of view, they can do a lot of damage between now and January
Right.
2022 that yours truly are looking at, who's going to have to try to explain to everybody why everything is going up. Why'd you do that? Why? We weren't even on. Go to the videos, you'll see it. I ask the questions, they don't want to answer. I go to the meetings, they don't want to answer. I fill in the right to know, I don't get the answers. I am so rudely treated, I put on my second video, I'm done being treated like this. I will not do that to you. I don't care what question you ask me, we will. I will treat you
So-
kindly.
back to the bond issue, which he's talking about in the building there. It's for $5.5 or $6 million the bond. It can go up to almost $8 million. Is that what it was, Dave? 8 million? Was that? No. They can go up to a certain amount and ask for it, and then if they choose to get more, it can go up to $10.5 million.
There's one other point. Part of the bond is callable. Okay? The callable means right there, if the interest rates are in the best interest of the bondholder, they can call the bonds and you have to refinance. The 6 members of the board had no clue of that. Okay? So that's the best case scenario.
Give us the worst case scenario.
It's whatever the interest rate is for you to refinance that piece of the bond that they call.
Right.
So that was, you know, with all those things, when I asked them, before you sign the bond, why don't you get the construction bids to at least get bids on the building so you understand what you're committing to?
They had the bids already.
They may well have.
So we didn't have them, but they had.
What's the plus about,
Who knows?
myself and Rick? Rick's in the plumbing business. I've been in construction most of my life, except for the 20 years I've been in corrections. And I own my own gutter business. I do soft and fascia gutters and all that. So I have my mindset set for construction. So people can help me with the logistic part of it, but also I know a lot when it comes to prices of stuff getting done and all that stuff, and the way you should get a couple bids and look at it. It seems like they don't get bids for nothing. It should be at least 3 bids for each job, should be.
And part of my ability is I'm an analyst, a high-level analyst, a number cruncher. I could read patterns and algorithms, write them and stuff like that. But we all offer something. You know what I mean? We have whoever you vote for, and these are all good people. All, you know what I mean? We have to gain the seats to tip the vote in favor of the people of Monmouth.
Eric, do we hit all the questions?
We hit all the questions. Does anybody wants to ask any other questions?
I gotta thank everyone for coming
I
as
do
well.
too.
Thank you. Look at the water and sewage bill from the G-Sport is sitting here. The ballot's right here. Take a peek at it. So, thank you all for coming. It was a long meeting, but everyone that has questions got answered. That's what it's about.